Hey guys, welcome to the part 2 of the scripting series where I'll be covering on how to script this specific leaderboard model in Roblox Studio. Well, in part 1, I've taught you guys on how to create the UI for the leaderboard and the podiums. However, in part 2, I'll be teaching you guys on how to script this specific leaderboard using order data stores. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, before moving on to scripting the leaderboard, what I first want you guys to do is go to File and Experience Settings. And inside Experience Settings, I want you guys to go to Security. And in Security tab, you'll be seeing a setting called Enable Studio Access to API Services. And I want you guys to enable this setting because in order to be able to use data stores, you want to enable this setting because you can see it says Enable Studio access to experience services such as data stores, which is why I want you guys to enable this setting. And after enabling it, you can simply click on the X, and now we can start scripting the leaderboard system. So now I'm going to just come to the wins leaderboard model, and under the wins leaderboard model, I'm going to be adding a script, and I'm going to rename this script to leaderboard scripts. Okay, so after here, I'm simply going to get the data store service by simply typing local data store service equals game colon get service data store service. And we're going to be using this service to get the player's data. And after that, we're going to simply type local wins data store equals data store service colon get ordered data store. And we're simply going to type as wins data store. Okay guys, so initially we don't really have any data stores in this game, which is why we're creating. So what this function does is that it creates a data store if the data store inside of this brackets doesn't exist. And by now, this data store doesn't really exist in the game, which is why if it does not exist, then this game is simply going to create a new data store named wins data store. And the reason why we're using get order data store is because we want the players' wins, when the players' names and wins to be ordered in descending order, which is why we're using get order data stores instead of the other function called get data stores. The only issue with this is that you can't really order players' names if you use get data stores, which is why we'll be using get ordered data stores. All right, so after getting the order data stores, we're simply gonna come and create the functions. So now, okay, we're gonna get the variables, and the first variable is going to be the list part, which is right over here. So when I get that, local list part equals script dot parent dot list part. And after that, we're simply gonna get the surface GUI, which is local surface GUI equals list part dot surface GUI. And inside the surface GUI, we want to be getting the leaderboard scrolling frame, which is right over here. And we're simply going to type local leaderboard scrolling frame equals surface GUI dot leaderboard scrolling frame. And under that is where all the players' data frames will be stored. And our main job over here is to get the player's name and the the player's name with the most wins and arrange them in a descending order. And that is our main goal for the script. So how do we do that? Uh, how do we arrange the players from ascending to descending order? Like how do we exactly do that? Well, basically, before explaining that thing to you guys, there's one more thing that I want you guys to understand, which is how data stores work. So basically, inside of a data store, in this case, it's going to be the wins data store, how will data be stored? Well, inside data store, there are two main values, two main things that I want you guys to know, which is the key and the value, right? So basically, inside of a data store, there will be two main things. One is the key and the value. The key is basically a special type of string that contains a certain value. Like for example, let's say the key is my name. The key could basically be any kind of string, but for example, I'm gonna put my name, which is alt tantrums, which is my name, and the value, it could be any value, but in this case, I may be 90. And this is how a data store works. A data store is basically a place where a bunch of keys and values are stored. Another example, like let's say Brawl, maybe Braun, I guess, I don't know, some sort of name. And the value could also be 78, and so on. And that is how data stores usually work. Data stores usually contain a bunch of special strings with a value inside of that special string. And that special string is what you call a key. But however, the only main issue with data stores is that these keys and values are not really in any order. They're just there. There's not really a specific order to these keys and values. However, we want these keys and values to be in a specific order. And in this case, it's going to be in descending order. So how do we order all these keys and values in descending order? Well, in order to do that, what we can do is there's a specific function called, well, let me just show you guys. Local sorted store equals wins data store colon gets sorted async. All right. And then in this, there are three parameters, which is the ascending. Like if you want this to be ascending or not, but here we want this to be descending, so we're simply gonna put false because you want it to be descending order. And if you put this as true, this whole data store will be ordered in the ascending order, but we want this to be in descending order, so we're going to be putting false. Another parameter is going to be the page size. And here, since there are only 15, we only want the top 15 mints, we're going to be typing 15. Well, essentially, a page is how many how many key value pairs you want in this data store. Well, this is also a data store, but it only has a certain amounts of entries, certain amounts of key value pairs. In this case, I'm going to be having 15 pairs, 15 key value pairs, which is why I'm putting 15 over here, because you only want the top 15 mints. We don't want any more than that, which is why I'm putting 15. And the third parameter is going to be, no, there are actually four parameters. And the third parameter is going to be the minimum value. And in this case, it's going to be 1. I mean, the minimum value, it's obviously going to be 1. You don't really want players that have 0 wins in the leaderboard, which is why we're going to be putting 1. And the maximum, the last parameter is the maximum value. And in this case, I'm not going to put anything because the maximum value can be any value, which is why you don't really want a maximum value. And after using this function in the next line, what we're going to be doing is we're going to get that page. We want to get that current page. So how do we do that is that we put local that current page equals sorted store colon get. Okay, so before that, we could also put it something like this, pages. And here we can just put get, one second, get page. Oh yeah, get current page. My bad, I kind of forgot. So yeah, so what this does, okay, and yeah, so what this does is that it gets the first page with these 15 entries. So initially what we did is that the sorted store basically has 15 key value pairs, and what this variable does is that it gets the first 15 key value pairs, and this gets stored as a dictionary. So basically the variable page is actually a dictionary, and I'll show you guys how dictionary looks later in the scripting tutorial. Okay, guys, you guys might be wondering how this specific page exactly looks like. And guys, this is exactly how this page looks like. And if, as you can see, this whole thing is a table. Inside of the table, this is a dictionary. There's actually a dictionary. This whole thing is a dictionary with this as the key and this as the value. The value itself is also another dictionary, and this is how a page would usually look like. This is the key, and this is the value, and the value is a dictionary. In the dictionary, there are two key value pairs, and this is exactly how a page usually looks like. And this could be any string you want, and it could also be like something like this. Like it doesn't really matter. And this is just an example of how a key looks like. You can keep however you want, but usually I recommend that you keep I would usually recommend that you guys keep the key as the player's user ID because the user ID is a completely unique ID that and you can't really replicate the player's user ID, which is why it's usually best to keep the player's key as a user ID, something like this. All right, so now this is exactly what you'll be getting after doing calling these two functions. Like this is where you're sorting, and when this thing is being sorted, it kind of returns like a book of pages. That's how I would like you guys to remember. And this is basically a book of pages, and each page has 15 entries, and that is how this usually looks like. That is how I usually want you guys to comprehend. And this is basically a book of pages with 15 key value pairs, and this basically gets the very first page. Gets the very first page. And yeah, this is how I want you guys to understand what exactly is going on over here. So after getting the first page, what we'll be doing is we're going to loop through this page with simply typing for, okay, so over here, this is going to be a rank, right? Because this is the first place, second place, and so on. So this is going to be the rank, right? This is the rank, which is why I'll be putting as rank, comma, this is going to be the data, the player's data, which is basically the key and the value, right? So here I'm going to be put data dicts in pairs. And here we're simply going to get the page over here, which is right over here. And page colon, oh yeah, just page. And then we're going to be putting do. So what this does is that it gets the rank and then the data, which is this whole table. It's two key value pairs. And yeah, that's pretty much why I'm using this exact for loop to get the player's rank and the player's key and then the player's value. Okay, guys, so now what I want you guys to do is that, okay, so basically in this leaderboard model, and if you go down to the leaderboard scrolling frame, you should be seeing a bunch of player data frames. And here I'm basically going to delete all of these frames. And I'm going to put this in the server storage because essentially we want to clone this frame and put this frame in the player scrolling frame. And that is what exactly what we're doing here so that you get the players list of players that have the most wins. So now over here, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to get, okay, so over here, I'm also going to get the local uh, prototype, prototype player data frame. And this is going to be the prototype player data frame that is located in the server storage. And here I'm going to put equal to game.server data frame. And this is going to be our prototype frame. So after doing that, what we're going to be doing is we're also, okay, so yeah. So here we're simply going to clone this player data frame by simply typing local new player data frame equals prototype player data frame colon clone. What this does is that it clones this specific player data frame. And now with this new player data frame, we're simply going to assign the text inside of this new player data frame over here. And here, this player data frame contains a player name. So how do we get the player name? Well, okay, so before getting the player's data frame, we're going to simply over here, we're going to create a p call by simply typing local success, comma, results equals recall function. And here we're simply going to put enter. And here we're going to return the player's name by simply typing. Okay, so before that, let me get the player's service over here. Local players equals game colon get service players. And after getting the player's service over here, we're simply going to come back over here. I'm going to return the player's name. We're simply typing players colon. There's a function called get player by user ID. Right. And over here in our data stores, we're simply going to keep the key as the player's user ID, which is why we're going to be using this function to get the player's name from the user ID. So how do we get the player's user ID? What we do is we simply, get the data dict, and inside data dict, the key is the player's user ID, as you can see. So here I'm going to put data dict, and the key is going to be this. And that's pretty much it. That is how you get the player's user ID. The reason why we're wrapping this in a p call is because this can sometimes cause an error, which is why it's probably best to wrap this in a p call. And also, we're also going to create a variable called local player name, just in case. It's like an empty variable, I guess. I'll simply create it over here. And after that, we're going to check if this is a success. If this becomes successful, if you can get the player's name from the user ID successfully, then that name would basically go to the second variable, which is the result. So we're going to check if success then. If this is successful, we're simply going to put the player's name equals the result. And that's pretty much it. That is what we're exactly going to be doing over here. That's how we get the player's name in a safe manner by using pickles. So after getting the player's name, what we're doing is we're going to come back over here and we're going to get the player's name text label over here by simply typing new player data frame dot player name dot text, and this is going to be equal to player name. Okay, so here I think I'm supposed to putting a player name. Wait, it's actually get player name. Oh, okay. I think the player. Okay, you know what? Let's just put it like that. Player get player from user, right? Uh, get it's actually get name from user ID. My bad, guys. Sorry, I made a pretty bad mistake. It's actually get name from user ID async, which is going to be data date and key. And from this, we can get the player's name from the user ID. So here I'm simply gonna put the player name right over here. And after putting the name, we also want to put the player's rank, right? Which is right over here. We want to put the player's rank as well. So simply gonna type new player data frame dot player rank dot text, and this is gonna be equal to rank, which is right over here. That is a key, right? The key is going to be a rank, which is this. This is a key. And we're going to simply put the key, which is the rank, over here. And after that, the last thing is that we want to put the wins as well. So what we're going to doing is we're going to put new player data frame dot wins dot text, and this is going to be equal to the data date and the value, right? And this is going to be your value. Okay, so after assigning all the players' data into this player data frame, what we're essentially going to be doing is we're going to parent this frame to the leaderboard scrolling frame by simply typing new player data frame dot parent, and this is going to be equal to the leaderboard scrolling frame, which is right over here. We're going to put that exact same frame inside of this leaderboard scrolling frame. And yeah, that's pretty much what we're trying to do. However, okay, so after putting the players' data frames, we also want to delete, okay, after 1 minute, okay, after a specific time interval, we would eventually want to delete all the frames and put those frames again, right? So how do we do that? Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to simply take this whole thing and wrap them in a while true do loop. So over here, I'm going to type while true do. And inside this while true do loop, I'm simply going to click Control X and put this whole thing in Control V because we want this whole process to be happening forever, which is why we're putting this whole thing in a while true do loop. Okay, so after inserting all the top 15 players as frames, right? After doing all of that, we simply want to wait, right? We want the leaderboard to wait for a specific time interval. And in this case, I guess I'll put 1 minute, but for the sake of tutorial, I'm gonna put only 15 seconds because usually many games use 1 minute, but here I'm simply gonna put 15 seconds. And every 15 seconds, this whole thing's gonna refresh, right? The whole leaderboard will basically get refreshed. And also one more thing in order to do is that we want to delete, right? Okay, so after the 15 seconds gets over, we want to delete all the other frames inside of the variable scrolling frame. So how do we do that? Well, we simply come over to the starting part, and we're simply going to type for I comma b in. Okay, so simply put as underscore comma player data frame in pairs. And here we're simply going to get the leaderboard scrolling frame, uh, colon, get children. And this is going to return a table of every single item that is under the leaderboard scrolling frame. And after that, we're simply going to put do. All right, so after looping through the leaderboard scrolling frame, you also want to check if this item is a frame because as you can see, there's actually these two things are actually not frames. There's something else. This is the UI list layout and this is the UI pattern. So we don't really want to loop through these two items. So it's probably best to check if this is a frame or not by simply typing if player data frame colon is a frame. We're checking if any item under the leaderboard scrolling frame is a frame. And if it is a frame, then we're simply going to put then. And now we're going to destroy the player data frame. We're simply typing player data frame colon destroy. And that's pretty much it. So, okay. So what exactly happens is that it first sorts, like it basically returns a book of pages, and each and every page contains 15 key value pairs like these. Like it's going to contain 15 key value pairs like this. And inside that book of pages, we're simply going to get the very first page because the very first page is the page where it contains the highest wins, right? The players with the highest wins, which is why we're going to get the very first page. And after that, what we're doing is we're looping through that page. And a page usually looks like this. This is how a page looks like. So we're going to loop through that exact same page. And this is going to be rank the data type. This could also be I comma V, but I'm simply putting it as rank comma data type because it looks more specific, right? Which is why I put rank comma data type. And after looping through this specific page, here we're going to be using a p call to return the player's name from the user ID because there's a function that specifically allows you to return the player's name from the user ID. And I'm using that exact same function over here to get the player's name. And here it's going to be the key because as you can see in the format, the value is a table, right? This is the value. This data text is basically this specific dictionary. And in this dictionary, there's a key called key. Yeah. So there is a key named as key. We're going to get this value, like this specific value over here. And that is what I'm putting it over here. This specific value is the player's user ID, and I'm putting that exact ID over here. And after using the speak call, we're going to check if this is successful, right? If this function successfully got the player's key. And if this whole operation was successful, then this result basically becomes the player's name, because that's how P calls work. If something is successful, then this result becomes that returned value. And if it is not successful, this result becomes the error message, which is why this second variable depends on whether this operation became successful or not. And in this case, if this becomes successful, this returned value becomes the result, which is why we're putting the player name as the result. And after getting the player name, what we're essentially doing is we're duplicating a new player data frame from the server storage, which is right over here. After duplicating or cloning this player data frame, which is located in the server storage right over here, we're essentially changing the text of these three text labels to the player name and the rank and the data.value, which is over here. The value is over here. And after changing the text, we're finally putting that player data frame inside of the leaderboard scrolling frame that is right over here. And that is pretty much how this whole script works. Alright guys, so after doing all the scripting, we're simply gonna go back and we're gonna hit test here. And as you can see, if you look at the leaderboard, there are no frames coming in the leaderboard. And you guys might be wondering why. Well, because even though we did all the data manipulation in the script, we still don't have any data. Like initially, like we did the sorting, we got the current page, we did all the frame cloning and printing and all that, but we still don't have any data to begin with. And that is the exact reason why no frames are being displayed in the leaderboard. So now how do we insert data? How do we put data into the player? And how do we see the player's data in the leaderboard? Well, for starters, what we're doing is okay, so here we're simply going to go to the player, we're going to go to service, insert a script. I know, guys, this is getting pretty long. Like, yes, even for me, this is quite a long script. But yeah, this will all end pretty soon after the script. All right, so in the script, we're simply going to put player manager, I guess. Yeah, player manager. And inside of the script, what we're doing is we're going to get the player service, local players equals game colon get service, and we'll put players. And we're also going to get the data store service by simply typing local data store service, game get service, data service. And we're also going to get the wins data store, which is right over here. We're going to get the exact same data store and put it right over here. And now after that, we're also going to check if the player is being added by simply typing if players dot player added colon connect function, and the parameter is going to be the joined player. And after hitting enter, and over here, we're simply gonna set the data to this join player. So how do we do that? Well, first, we're simply gonna get uh, the player. Like we're gonna type local success, comma, results equals pcall function. So over here, essentially, we're trying to get the player's data. There is data, but we don't, I mean, there's not really any data in any player, but here we're going to check if the player has any data in the wins data store by simply typing return wins data store colon get async. There's a function called get async that is used to get the player's data. And also the key, okay, so we're gonna get the key local key equals join player dot user ID, because we already settled with the fact that the key is going to be the user ID. As you can see, the key is going to be the user ID. It can be any string you want, but it's always best to use user ID because usually you want keys to be very, very unique. You don't want to have same keys. If that happens, then I feel like there's gonna an error is gonna occur, which is why it's best to always use the player's user ID. And here I'm simply gonna put wins data store colon get async, and I'm gonna put key, and yeah, I'm gonna put key, which is basically gonna return if check if any the player has any data or not. And after that, here we're simply gonna type if success and results, then okay, so you know what? Before doing all of that, I'm actually going to create a leader stats. I'm going to put that value over there. I'm going to create a folder called leader stats, a leader stats folder, which is, and it's going to look like local leader stats equals instance dot new folder comma join player. And inside of this folder, okay, I'm going to name this leader stats folder by simply typing leader stats.name equals leader stats. And guys, we want this name to be exactly as leader stats. Only then this the player's wins value will be displayed in the top right corner. And yeah, so after that, we're simply going to type leader stats parent equals join player. And we're also going to create a wins value, local wins equals instance dot new int value. And we're going to rename this int value to wins. And we're also going to parent this int value to the leader stats folder, right? And now, okay, so initially by default, the value of the wins int value is 0, right? And we're simply going to get the value, okay, the wins value from the player by using the get async function. And from this get async function, we're getting the value of this specific key. Because in data stores, like as I mentioned, it has a key value pair, and this is a key, which is a special string. And this special strings value, we're using this function to get this special strings value. So after doing that, we're checking if it is successful and the result does exist, right? So checking if success and result then, and if it is, here we're simply gonna put the wins dot value equals result, right? Sorry, result. However, let's say this does not if this not successful, let's say, okay, so I'm gonna put else if not success or not results, then here we're gonna put wins dot value equals 0. Well, this, I mean, if the result does not exist, that basically means the player is a new player because the player's key does not exist in the data store, which is why we're using a P call to check if this specific player, this joined player's key, exists in the wins data store. And if it does not exist in the data store, then we're simply going to set the value to 0. And if it does exist, the result does exist. And if it is successful, we're simply going to put the value of wins as the result. And yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. And also one more thing, when the player leaves the game, we also want to want to save the data as well if the player leaves the game. So it's something going to type players dot player removing colon connect function left player. This is going to be the parameter. And here we're also going to get the key just like we did over there, which is going to be local key equals left player dot user ID. And we're going to use a p call local success comma results equals p call, and we'll put function. And over here we're going to return okay, so we'll return wins data store colon set async. And what this does is that it changes the value with respect to the corresponding value. It sets the value of the specific key. Let's say the player, okay, so let's say the player has 10 wins, right? Let's say the player has 10 wins. Now, if we use set async, we can basically change the player's wins. Has 20 wins. Like for example, we can also change the player's wins from 10 to 20, and set async is used to update a player's player's value. Okay, so over here is the first parameter is going to be the key, which is right over there. And the value is going to be, okay, so here we also want to get the wins value right over here, right? We're going to get the leader stats and the wins, and we want to set the player's wins value to this specific wins int value, which is why we're going to be getting the wins, the leader stats and the wins as well, by simply typing local leader stats equals left player colon find first child leader stats. And we're also going to put this, if not leader stats, then return end, because sometimes, I mean, just in case, it's probably best to put this just to be extra safe. Like sometimes if the game lags, this may or may not work properly, and that's pretty much the reason why we're checking the leader stats exist or not, right? And now we're also going to check the wins, just like we did for the leader stats, by simply typing leader stats, find first child wins. If not wins, then return end. And after that, we're simply going to get the value of the wins, right? So after the player leaves, we simply want to get the value, the int value called wins that we created over here. Like this is the name of the int value, and getting that specific wins and we're putting it dot value so that we can get the value of the int value wins. And here we're simply going to put key comma value, right? And that's pretty much it. And we're checking if this is successful or not. If success, then, and we're simply going to put print this and say player data save, right? And if it is not successful, we're simply going to warn with an error, warn the error message, which is going to be the result, because the p call, if this is successful, this operation is successful, like I said before, if this operation is successful, then this whole thing is going to be the result, right? The return value is going to be the result, but if it's not successful, then this result is going to be the error message, which is why I'm putting warn results. And yeah, this is how you can save the player's data. So now if I hit, okay, wait, this is still not gonna work because the minimum value is actually 1, but my minimum value is actually 0, which is why I'm actually gonna go back to the leaderboard script and change the minimum value to 0 just for now. So here, if I put play, as you can see the rank is 1, all tantrums, and the wins is 0, because the minimum value is actually set to 0. All right, guys, so after creating all the data part, like after setting data to the player, now there's one more thing that we want to be doing, which is adding wins. Like there has to be a way to gather some wins. So how do you do that? Well, there are many ways you can do this, but in this tutorial, I've created my own way to gather all the wins. So here, what I'm going to be doing, so in order to gather these wins, I'm going to create a part right over here, and I'm simply going to put it over here, and I'm going to rename this to win clicker part. So how this works is that whenever you click on this part, you get an extra win. And yeah, that is how you gain wins in this tutorial. And yeah, this is a pretty easy way to gain wins, but yeah, this is just for the sake of adding more wins to the data to show you guys how the ranking works in the leaderboard. And yeah, okay, so after creating your win clicker part, I'm simply going to anchor this part. And here underneath this part, I'm going to add a click detector that is right over here. And here, okay, so after creating the click detector, I'm simply going to go back to my leaderboard script. And also, before the while show do loop, I'm going to get that specific part by simply typing local win clicker part equals workspace dot win clicker part. And I'm also going to get that specific click detector by simply typing local click detector equals win clicker part dot click detector. And after that, we're simply going to check if the player is clicking. Like after, we're going to check if the player has clicked the part by simply typing a click detector dot mouse click colon connect function. And it's going to be a player. Oh, okay. Player who, oh my goodness. Player who clicks. And this is going to be the function. And after creating a function, this event here underneath, we're simply going to say, we're going to increment the player's wins by 1. So how we do that, what we're going to do is we're simply going to get, oh wait, my bad guys. This actually has to be in the player manager script. I don't know why I put it over here. So I'm simply going to put Control X and come back over here and I'm going to put that over here. All right, so after that, we're gonna check, we're gonna get the wins value by simply typing local wins equals, sorry, player who clicked dot, okay, so we're gonna get the leader stats first, right? We're gonna get the leader stats by simply typing local leader stats equals player who clicked dot okay, find first child leader stats. You're gonna type if not leader stats, then return n. The reason why doing a lot of if statements like these is because if the game lags, a lot of bad errors can occur, which is why it's always best to put these if statements just in case, right? Like most of the times, nothing is gonna happen, like these errors won't occur, but sometimes the game lags, a lot of bad issues could happen. That is why you should always protect your stuff with if statements like these. So now we're gonna come get the wins, local wins, okay, which is leader stats, find first child wins, not with their end. And after all of that, after getting the wins value, okay, so we already created that wins value when the player joined the game, which is why this is most probably going to exist under the player's leader stats folder, which is why we're getting the wins. And also, okay, so after that, we're also going to get wins dot value plus equals 1. And also, one more thing we have to be doing is that we want to save the data as well, right? I mean, only if you save the data, that data would be displayed on this specific leaderboard, which is why we're going to be creating we're going to save the data in the wins data store. So how do we do that? Well, we do the exact same way like we did for the players removing part by simply typing. We're going to get this specific call, and I'm going to Control C. We're going to copy this, and over here, we're simply going to paste it over here, which is local success result. Oh wait, we still need the key, which is local key equals player who clicked dot user ID, and that is going to be the key. And here the value, I guess I'll put it as wins dot value. The reason why I'm doing this is because we've already updated the wins value, we incremented the wins value by 1 over here. So which is why we're simply going to update the wins value right over here. And yeah, that is pretty much how you can gain wins in this specific game. And now if I click on test here, okay, so initially I have only 0 wins. So now if I look at the leader stats, like I only have 0 wins. So if I click here, as you can see, okay, guys, the reason why I'm getting this warning is because you're not supposed to be sending too many requests. I mean, data stores, like if you want to save data, it's always best to not get this much requests. And it's not really good for, I mean, because data stores, they usually take a certain amount of time to save data, which is why this is actually not the best way to save data. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be putting saving data like this. And yeah, as you can see, after, okay, so this is why these values are not the same is because I've sent way too much data store requests. Like I've sent way too much requests to save the wins value, and that is actually not good. You're not supposed to be giving too many requests, which is why this is not actually a good way to send data store requests. But the point is, I mean, if you click on this part very slowly, I guess you won't really be getting this error. And yeah, as you can see, the wins are getting updated pretty good. Okay, guys, if you truly don't want that warning to occur anymore, well, what you can do is you could add a debounce by some typing local db equals false. And over here, we can put db equals, okay. So over here, what you can do is if db equals false, then and you can put this whole script inside of this debounce, and here we can put debounce equals true, and you can put a task have a 3-second cooldown over here, task start rate 3, and you can put debounce equals false. Let me just format this script a bit, and yeah, this is how it's gonna look like. Oh, what's this? db equals true. And after 3 seconds, like after I click this part once, this script is going to wait, like this whole function won't fire for 3 seconds until this debounce becomes false, because if it becomes false, only then this whole thing will work. So now if I hit play, and you should be seeing that you're not really seeing that warning error anymore, because you can't really spam click on this part, and you should probably have a time interval, a specific time interval before when you're trying to save data, which is why it's probably best to not give too many requests at too fast. And yeah, that's pretty much how you can gain wins and be on this specific leaderboard. All right, guys. So after doing the wins updating uh, using the click detectors, there's one more thing that I would like to do in the leaderboard script. And okay, so if you go down over here, you should be seeing this. And I think it's better if I put this thing inside of the success, because we only want this to happen if this is successful. And after that, I'm going to come down over here and I'm going to put else. And if it is not successful, we simply want to warn uh, that the player's data cannot be retrieved by player's name cannot be retrieved by simply typing cannot get player's name from the leaderboard. And I'm simply going to concatenate the player's name. Okay, I can also put the key over here, data dict key, and I can also put a warning. And after that, I can simply also put, sorry, warn the result at the same time. I mean, it's okay. And after doing all these warnings, I'm simply going to put continue. What continue does is that it skips the whole iteration and mainly just goes on to the next iteration. Like for example, let's say this loop is in the second entry, the second key value pair, the second part. And let's say it's getting this specific key, and if this you cannot, and if the loop cannot get the name from this specific user ID, what it does is that it basically continues. It basically skips the iteration and moves on to the next rank. It basically moves on to the next rank, and that's why I'm putting it like this. And guys, there's also one more thing that I would like to do which is you probably want the text color of the for top three players to be different. Like, so for top one, you want the text to be in yellow. For the second rank, you want it to be in gray. And for third rank, you probably want it to be in bronze, right? And you can actually do that by simply going to the Leaderboard script. And here, we're actually going to check the rank as well. So now, if you're going to check if the rank equals 1, we're simply typing if rank equals 1, then, and here we're simply gonna copy this. Okay, before that, I think it's better if I put this whole thing over here. By default, we want to copy this frame, right? And here we're going to check if the rank equals 1. The rank does equal to 1. And we're going to get the new player data frame dot player name dot text color 3 equals color 3 dot from RGB, and you can put whatever color you want. I'm going to put yellow. I guess yellow is pretty good. And I'm actually going to do the exact same thing for the player rank label, which is player rank. And also, I'm going to do the same thing for the wins label. And yeah, it's exactly what I want to do. And also, we're also going to check if the rank equals 2, right? And I'm going to do that. I'm simply just going to copy this and paste it over here to change the text color. And here, I'm simply going to change the text color to something like a dark gray over here, maybe something like that. And I want to copy this RGB value and put it over here and here as well. And also, we're also going to check if the rank equals 3. If the rank is equal to 3, we're simply, oh, okay. I'm going to copy this and paste over here. Okay. And I'm also going to change the RGB to something like brown, I guess, something like a nice brown, maybe over here. All right, I'll just put it like an orange thing that doesn't look too bad. Put orange. I'm going to copy all these RGB values and I'm going to paste it over here. And okay, so let's say the player is not in either of these 3 ranks. Then if the player is not in either of these 3 ranks, then you can simply put a default color over here. Like here, text color is going to be something like, yeah, I think black is pretty good. I think black is, yeah, I think black is actually pretty good. That's going to be the default color. And yeah, that's the reason why I'm changing the colors of the text labels. Alright guys, there is still one last thing that we didn't do yet, which is putting the player's humanoid description onto these rigs. So how do we do that? How do we exactly put the top 3 players' shirts, their body colors, and their face and all that into all of these rigs? Well, okay, so in order to do that, we'll simply go back to the Leaderboard script. And we're going to create a function called local function apply humanoid description. And here is going to be 3 main parameters. One is going to be the user ID, and then the second parameter is going to be the dummy, and the third parameter is going to be the player name, right? And after that, I'm simply going to hit enter. And underneath over here, I'm simply going to get the humanoid. We're going to check if this specific dummy has a humanoid. This dummy is going to be the rig, and this is going to be the player's user ID. and this is going to be the player name of the player. So over here, I'm simply going to check if the humanoid exists in dummy by simply typing local humanoid equals dummy, dummy colon find first child. And over here, we're simply going to put humanoid. And we're going to put if not humanoid, then return end. And also one more thing we're going to do is we want to name this dummy to the name of the player by simply typing dummy dot name equals player name. That's what we're doing. Okay, so now this is the most important part. We want to put the description of the player to the dummy by simply typing local success, comma, description equals pcall function. I'm going to put enter and create a pcall. And now I'm simply going to return game dot players colon get humanoid description from user ID async. This is the most important part. From here, we can actually get the description from the player's user ID. So here, after getting the human description from the user ID, here we're just going to put user ID. And here we're going to check if success and description, then we're simply going to apply the description to the dummy's humanoid by simply typing humanoid colon apply description. And here simply going to put description. And yeah, it's pretty much it. This is pretty much how you put the player's description from the user ID. You get the player from the user ID, and then you put the player's description onto this specific dummy's prescription. And that is how you apply the humanoid description. So now after creating this function, what we're doing is we're going to go back to the leaderboard script and we're going to come over here. So here, if you go to the Vin's leaderboard model, as you can see, this leaderboard model, there are 3 podiums, right? And under those podiums is the rig, right? So we're going to get these rigs over here. And also, guys, I think it's better to put letters at the start. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's see if it's going to work or not. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get the podium local first. Okay, first podium equals Vin's, okay, script dot parent, script dot parent dot first podium. Okay, as you can see, this is returning an error. So, which is why I think I'll just get it like this. First, but you can also get the player's instances in this way as well. And after getting the first podium, I'm simply gonna get the rig, right? So, but instead of getting the rig with respect to the player's name, it's better to get the rig like this by simply typing local dummy equals first podium colon find first child of class model. The reason why we're getting the rig in this way is because the name of this rig is inserted. Like for example, let's say I am at first. Let's say all tantrums is at first. However, let's say after the leaderboard refreshes, the first player gets changed. Someone else goes first, and if someone else goes first, the name of this model won't really be rig anymore. The name will be all tantrums. And we can't really this name, if the name changes, we won't really be able to get this rig based on this rig's name anymore because the name isn't the same. It keeps changing, which is why it's best to use this function called find first child of class model. And there's only one model under the podium, which is the rig. It basically gets the item based on the class name, and the class name of this is model. As you can see right over here, it says model. And instead of getting this model based on the name, it's better to get this item based on the class name, which is why I'm putting dummy equals first podium, find first child class model, right? And here, last but not least, I can simply apply the human description. And the first is going to be the user ID. And if you look at the page, as you can see, this is the user ID. So it's been data text key, right? So data dicts, and I'm going to put key over here. And here I'm going to put the comma. And the second parameter is going to be a dummy, which is the dummy. And the third parameter is going to be the player name that is right over here. And I'm going to do the same thing for these three ranks as well. So here I'm just going to copy this and maybe paste it. And here I'm going to put second podium. Maybe change this to, okay, second podium. Let's change this to, okay, the name is actually wrong. Let me change that. Second podium. Yep. And I'm just going to copy this, maybe paste it over here. And I'm going to rename this to third podium, Control C, Control V. And here, this is going to be third podium. And yeah, that's pretty much how you can put the player's rig over here. So now if I go and hit run, oh, okay, I should have put a test here. It's really far. But yeah, so as you can see, this player, my player, this rig is being played over here. Oh, it's actually the wrong direction. I should probably twist the rig around. But yeah, as you can see, the player is being displayed right over here. And if you look at the rank, as you can see, the color is also being changed. Oh, ideally, I think it's best if you put a UI stroke over here because it's kind of hard to see the text. But yeah, that's how this whole thing, this whole variable is going to work. Alright guys, as you can see, I'm in my game and this is a leaderboard. And right now, I have 29 wins and my other account, which is SRC Tantrums, has 28 wins. And yeah, these are the rigs. And as you can see, the top one is all Tantrums and Tantrums 104 is second. So now, let's say I'm trying to overtake all Tantrums' wins over here, and let's say let me click this win part, and now as you can see he is overtaking my wins. The other guy, the black guy, is taking over my wins. And now if I look at the leaderboard, you should be seeing that the rigs have completely changed. Like top one is now the black guy and the top second is actually me, which is all tantrums. And yeah, that's pretty much proves that this leaderboard system is working as intended. And thank you so much guys for watching this video. I really hope that this video gave a pretty useful insight as to how leaderboard systems work in Roblox Studio. And yeah, honestly, this was a pretty long video. I totally understand that. But yeah, there were a lot of concept involved, so I guess that's a meaningful way to spend your time. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.